Hey Fairies! This is going to be a video about how I made my Umaru-Chan cosplay. It's basically all about how I made the hood. I really wanted to make this video earlier for you, before Anime Boston, but that didn't end up working out because my charger died on me. I don't know how my computer is alive right now. Since it is, I'm going to make this video for you and hopefully you enjoy it. Here's my process of making Umaru-Chan. Okay. All of these supplies I'm going to need are already laid out in front of me. That's just going to be a tape measure, tape, scissors, as well as the video and a basic idea of how long my body is so I can cut out the pattern as needed. This is a lot of trial and error, so please bear with me as I try to show you what I'm doing. And of course, it's not cosplay unless you have your pet either sitting on your pattern, your fabric, or inside your luggage when you're trying to get ready. At least he's cute. The video I'm following belongs to Riku Queen, and I will have that linked in the description below if you want to see her instructions. To start off with her pattern, the hood is 20 centimeters long. I had a lot of struggle trying to use my tape measure as it wasn't completely straight, so if you do this, I recommend you get one of the ones that are a bit more sturdy to hold the shape. With that being said, I tried the best I possibly could to get an exact measurement. The biggest struggle I had was trying to make a curve from the top of the hood to the sides that wrapped around the face. The best I could do was to take my measuring tape and try to use it as a compass, but it still wasn't very accurate, and so I ended up just sketching it out to the best of my ability, and also keeping in mind it's better to have more than to have less. Once I finished the sketch, I ended up making a new semicircle from that design so I could be able to match it up to the original for the future hood. Having these two pieces separate made me more able to visualize what the hood would look like in the future. Once you cut out the pattern, what you should be left with is one large rectangle and one large semicircle according to Rico. When I first watched the video, I didn't quite understand what the rectangle was for, but once I put it into practice, I realized that was what would be used to connect the hood to the rest of the cape. I was scared to commit to this, but I ended up taking the semicircle, matching it up with the original pattern, and cutting off the edges to make the semicircles match while still connected to the rest of the pattern. Now that it's all cut, you can get a basic idea of what the hood is going to look like. It still needs to flap so it can be able to connect with the button, but otherwise it is in good shape. Once I felt happy with it, I cut out the edges from one side of the pattern, folded it in half, and continued on the other side to match. From there, I grabbed the fabric, folded it in half, attached the pattern on top of it, pinned it down, and then cut out the shape. I made sure to keep some extra fabric in case I wanted a bigger seam allowance, or I messed up. As I went on, I realized that the flap I had patterned out was far too small to be able to fit across my shoulders with a button, so I cut it off and decided to make a new flap. Now that all my pieces are separated, it's time for me to start sewing. Be sure to check with a scrap piece of fabric whether or not your sewing machine is tight enough or is working properly, because I've had many mistakes that the thread would catch and it would mess the whole thing up. From here, I sewed together the semicircle and the rectangle. This is where the hood will start. You can see I left plenty of seam there that I can cut off later, and I'm definitely going to be adjusting this as I go along and also need to fit the ears into place there, but that'll be accounted for later. After testing how it would fit against the other fabric, I realized that I'd rather have the rectangle be a semicircle just like the top one, and I found that would fit better against the hood that way. Honestly, that part of Riku's tutorial was a bit hard for me to understand, so it was a lot of trial and error. After I figured that part out, I matched it all up with pins and continued. Here I'm just confirming that the flaps are way too small, so I made a new one that I would sew back on. I hadn't accounted for the fact that I would want to hem this, so it ended up much smaller than I wanted it to be, so please keep that in mind if you're doing this design. Here are all the basic pieces sewn together. The button still needed to be sewn on, as well as sewing on the facial details, but for the most part, besides needing to hem the rest of the sides, it was coming out exactly as I wanted it to. This part of the tutorial I followed along with Riku precisely. I added scrap fabric inside the inner part of the ear so that when I turned it around, it'd be able to stand up by itself. I had already sewn the two outer orange portions and glued in the support scraps. Once it's inside out, I can add further detail with white fabric to make the inner part of the ear. Going back and trying on the hood made me realize I didn't quite like the shape I had sewn. It was too wide, so I went back in and decided to sew farther and found that I liked the shape far more. If anything, I would just cut the extra seams that we created on the inside. I forgot to show how I added in the ears, but I ended up opening the seams in the middle, tucking them in, and sewing them in place. Fixing the seam ended up rounding out the hood, and I liked that shape far more for my face. I managed to forget to record how I did the face, so what I did was I used black crochet fabric to outline all of the details that I used with white fleece. It definitely made the hamster's face stand out more because it wasn't just on a flat surface. It was now 3D. I used fabric glue to keep the design in place. Not afraid to get messy. To keep the thread from fraying, I ended up really covering it in glue and spinning it around my fingers. Who is this? Who is she? Ah! She's an awful camera person, that's who she is. And here is the finished product. I'm really proud of how it turned out. The hems aren't the nicest, the face is probably a bit off-center, but it's really cute and really all I wanted for Umaru-Chan. I ended up also making a pair of shorts. I tried to record that, but utterly failed. So I hope you don't mind that I leave it at this instead. This was the first piece of clothing I had ever made completely by myself with completely new fabric, and I am so proud of the outcome. It's all thanks to Rico. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you can understand what I did. And a big shout out to Rico Queen. The video that I will link in the description showed where I got this basic idea for it. I had to embellish on her cosplay design, but I did the best I could. So I hope this helps you if you ever want to cosplay Umaru-Chan. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to become a fairy today, and I'll see you later, fairies. Bye!